so it is not up to the level. So finally, they have actually, wasted their time for some other tasks, but anyway, it is not useful. So therefore, if you all are in the position now to do a literature review, and also please remember, this is a very important, very, very important steps in the research process. Okay, once you identify your research question and when you finalize your research topic, so you are in a focus, you are focused, then you can do the thorough literature review. Thorough literature review is very important because, so I will show you what is why it is very important. And also at some point, so any other research study, so based on your purpose, you may ask to review the literature on a certain subject in a particular area. So if if you're a supervisor, maybe your education purpose, okay, maybe for your, sometimes maybe for your own research work. So such a review involves different writers' ideas or perspectives or topics, and evaluating these ideas all in relation to your own work. So you need to find out the very well related information for your own study. And also you need to remember the literature review is different from the one article review. Okay, so you cannot just review one article. So you have to find out all the suitable articles for your particular study. And also, please note that this is not the annotated bibliography. I'm sure that you have heard about the annotated bibliography. Annotated bibliography, which is usually a series of short reflection on the study or a research. It is a short reflection. Usually before you start the literature review, so what usually I suggest for my students is to do the annotated bibliography. So when you write the short reflection about that particular article's research study or whatever. So then after that you can elaborate it. But literature review is not there, not the annotated bibliography. So you need to review several articles. It's not just one article reviewing, it's a number of articles review. So what is the task now today is like to identify, so what are the sources? Like we need to identify the sources. So moving to the presentation. So this is the content of my presentations. So I will make this PowerPoint available for you all after my presentation, because I don't think that everything, it's really difficult to, do it within a few, time period given to me. But anyway, what I really want is to understand, to get the proper idea about if I want to do a scientific study, what should be the process? So, because I will show you. So some people do, because when we read some, dissertations, so we can't give marks because they don't know the purpose of the literature review. And also they have not taken the literature from a very reputed, from reliable sources. So there are available reliable sources. You can't take from everywhere. I don't mean that you cannot get it from some idea from a newspaper, but anyway, if you take it from the newspaper, you have to, you have to specifically mention that. And also we know when we take some ideas from kind of informal things, so the quality of that information. And also when we take some information from the well-reputed journals or whatever, we know the quality of the quality of that finding. So that is why today I want you all to know about those things. Okay. So what is the literature review? So we will, quickly understand about the literature review, usually what we do when we do a literature review, what we do. So usually we review survey books, surveys books, scholarly articles and other sources relevant to particular issue, area of research or theory, and by so doing provides a description, summary and critical evaluation of these works in relation to research problem being investigated. So you have to remember, so when you start the literature review, okay, or the sources, like when you want to find out the sources also, like before that, you have to have a proper research question. Okay, so that is why you are not nowhere. So sometimes without, you don't know, sometimes you may have done a research literature review. Sometimes you have wasted your time. So don't waste your time. So before you search for the sources or before you start the review, you have to have a very clear idea about your research questions and the research, your research topic. And literature reviews are designed to provide an overview of sources. So from the literature review also, an examiner or reader can understand about the quality of your work. Okay, so then like if you have taken some ideas to for the analysis or to identify the gaps from not reputed ways, so that is then not acceptable. So then you have to have a proper sources. So then you are like your work has a more value and more acceptable and more scientific also. You need to remember, usually when scientific study should be scientific. So therefore there is a way of doing the scientific way of doing the literature review. You can't just take information from here and there and put it here. Okay, so there's a system. So then the literature review are designed to provide an overview of sources you have explored while searching a particular topic and to demonstrate to your readers how your research fits with the larger field of study. You can't without having a proper idea about the available reputed literature, you cannot place your study. So if you cannot place your study with the existing literature, so we cannot actually you cannot get any credits for your work. So first of all, you need to understand. Sometimes at the beginning, this may be a very difficult task, but don't get upset. You can do. We can do. Only thing is, we should know the fundamentals of doing that. So what I have seen from my students, they don't have the fundamental idea about how to find the sources. So therefore they are nowhere. So they can't understand what is the primary source, what is the secondary source. So they don't have much idea about that. So therefore, so when we read the review, so initially we understand, oh my God, that person has done without any knowledge about the sources. Okay, so when we read if a well-trained person read the literature review, they can understand from your the citations and everything. Like we can understand. So based on your arguments, what are the authors of your citations. So from those things they can identify how the quality of your work. So when we do the literature review, so we do for two purposes mainly. So for the general purpose means when you do a kind of a study, so if it is a scientific study, so it's a must to do the literature review. So we do so usually in a research project, so we have introduction, so then the literature review, so methods, results, and discussion, and we are going to the conclusion. So in the general terms of what we do, so here in the general terms, we do this literature review as a part of this study, as a part of this study, then you can place your study within the existing literature. And also you can give some extension to the existing knowledge. Okay. So here to demonstrate your familiarity with the literature. So it's really important when you do a study and when you write, article or a dissertation or a PhD thesis or whatever, it's really important to show reader or examiner or whoever read your things, your familiarity with the literature. So when we read this, we can understand, oh my God, that person has done so much of work. Okay. So, and also those are very, very quality work, because he has worked hard to find out the well suitable literature for their study. This takes, sometimes, quite considerable time. But anyway, if you can start this, in a proper way, it's very easy for you. It's very easy. And to justify your research by presenting a gap in knowledge, so you have to identify the gap. And also, after that, after your discussion, you can show your contribution to preempt your discussion. So it's really important, like in the general terms, in this process, you use to identify the gaps and also to show your familiarity with the style, literature, and also to use the literature in the discussion. Okay, some people, they do the literature review separately in the general study. They do a literature review separately. They don't take those literature to the discussion. So then it's isolated. So you have to remember. So everything in the research project are connected to each section. So that is one way. Another way is some people do literature reviews as a whole research project. So they don't go for collecting data or they don't go for other methods. So they are, the main method is maybe from the desk research. So they use literature review in the whole study. So that is also there. So then the whole report based on literature review, that also can do. People can do, and also that people do to identify, and also that is also important to show you have to select a topic, and also you review literature, and also maybe that is your research project, and also you can show the findings of each, or you are evaluating each literature and show what are the findings. So this is important to report the current state of knowledge. So what are the available knowledge from the literature, and to discover what have been happening in the literature, and also to gather and synthesize evidence decision making. And also, there are common principles in conducting literature review. You have to have a clear aim, clear focus, thorough sources, literature sources, search strategy. You should know what are the search strategies. You should know what are the most reputed literature sources, and then appropriately designed, executed, and reported. Okay, so that is the final way. So what I really want to emphasize here is, before you do the search for the sources or do the literature review, you have to have a clear aim and a clear focus. Focus is the question. So based on that, you can do. Okay. So these are the steps in the literature review process. First, define the research question. Okay, first, you have to design your research question. So you have to ask from yourself. And also, please remember, when you do a research study, it's like you have to actually, have a, you have to have a considerable time to think. So ideas should come from you, from your mind. So when you read something, so your knowledge should come, other than the existing things, like your ideas also should come out. For that, you need, the relax and free time. So I see from most of the students, they don't put, they don't have enough, they don't, put enough time for those work, because this is like, you can't do a literature review overnight. it's a long process. Usually in a research project, you have to do the literature review. So until you finish the thesis, okay, in some extent you have to finish, like, when you come to the data, complete the data analysis and the discussion, you have to, stop searching for literature. But anyway, it's a process. So therefore, you have to systematically do this. So then determine inclusion, exclusion criteria. So when you have a focused research question, then, so what are the, so when you search for the literature, you will get several things. So then you should use the inclusion, the exclusion, what should be included, what should be excluded. You should know that, and also choose databases and conduct the search. So you should know what should be the databases that I have to use. Sometimes it depends based on your discipline. If you are from the social sciences, like we can, recommend Google Scholar, maybe, would fit. But, if you go for some other, disciplines, so there may be some other databases, okay? So likewise, depending your discipline, you have to decide. And also then review your results, synthesize the information gathered, then after that write the literature review. So don't try to, at the beginning, you can't do the write-up. So you can just, you have to have a proper plan to do the literature review. And also, so I have given here example. You can Google search and get, so there are several, articles that you can read. This is for your, kind of the homework. So I have suggested this, like there are 14 types reviews here. So you can read. So they have actually discussed about merit and demerits of, the reviews. Okay, so then you can learn, like when you collect information for your study, how to review. So you have to read those things also for your knowledge. And also there are several types of reviews. So simply I can say there are 3 main types. So when we take main types, there are 3 main types. So, and when you read some literature review, so the research methodology books, you can find more types, but there are 3 main types which will be useful for us. So narrative review, scoping review, and systematic review. So usually in social sciences, we use narrative reviews. Usually in the narrative reviews, the report current states of knowledge. So this knowledge also you need to know, like before you find out the source, and also start the review. So you have to think, and also this is not very easy. It takes time for you to understand. So because usually after my PhD, I'm doing and teaching to you all. But anyway, so it takes time. But anyway, start from a certain point. So when after this lecture, so what I really want is to start, the participant may be in a different levels. Some may be in the halfway of writing the literature review. Some people are now about to search for the sources. Okay, you are in a different, different stages now. But don't worry. Today, what I really want is to give a main focus. So yes, so this is the we have to actually, another thing that you have to keep in your mind is, so there is a scientific way of finding sources also. There is a well-reputed sources. Okay, so there is a way of citing those things. So there is a way. So if I don't know what I have to do, I need to get advice from supervisor or someone. Okay. So actually, if you really need to further, support from me, I'm always here to support you all, because within very short time period, I can't, do everything. But anyway, sources also different from the review that you are doing. So when you do the literature review, so there are 2 major stages. Usually, you just screen the title and abstract, and if the title and abstract is good, if you feel it is suitable for you, only you can go for the full text. Okay, So that is also for your information. Okay, so when I, show you the sources, so you will get multiple of documents, but you need to identify the very related things for you all know. So that is very important. That takes time also. I usually tell my students to keep records. Usually, if it is an old method, still I'm keeping, my, hard copies. I keep hard copies. I am maintaining a book. So when I do something, so you can actually type it and save. So that is very easiest way. And also sometimes, so you can use different ways. But anyway, so I keep records from a book also. So then it's easy. So when you start writing the literature review, before you write this literature review, you have to gather several information. No? And also sometimes you will forget. It's really important. Later I will show you people, maintain a library. Okay, maintain a library and keep all the information there. Sometimes you will forget. So that is what happened to all of the students. Okay, so we don't have good practices sometimes. We have to have a patience. We have to have a good practices when you do a, kind of a scientific study. Okay, this is like how you get. So you have to, extract. So this is how you can extract data from the literature. So you have to have a, kind of you can prepare kind of tables. Later you can elaborate. But when you have, information, such a information, so then you can read it and you can identify whether, whether I need to go for further reading of this article. So how it relates to my study. So most of the, information you can get it from here. So otherwise, if it is an article, so it's an article, no? So you can't have everything, you can't keep everything in your mind. You can't read several times to get, different, points in different times. So if you have a, kind of a table like this, so you can put it everything here. What happens? Oh my God, it's easy. So when you see this, so you have a references list. So usually that's what I do for my students. So I am asking very initially to write the annotated bibliography. Sometimes they, they don't use same bibliographies later. So when they, read and get used to this subject, so then they will go for the more suitable literature. But anyway, this is also, you have to do it as an exercise. So, okay. So I have, given here, so what is sources? So now we are moving to, so our purpose. So before I'm moving to this purpose, I wanted to, give kind of a brief knowledge about the literature review. Because don't forget, literature review is a very important, steps in the research process. Okay, without literature review, you can't actually do a proper study. Okay, and also you can't do a literature review to get marks only. So you have to do it in a proper way. You have to find the proper sources as well. So, and we know how we get information. So usually scientific information has a lifestyle of its own. There is a life cycle. So scientific information is a life cycle. You have to, feel it. Okay, it's a scientific. Sometimes you get an idea. From that idea, you talk with some people. Usually what I do, when I get some idea, I talk with my students. So what do you think about this idea? So I got this idea because when you are like reading, you get some ideas. So usually when you used to read, so you get some ideas. So from those ideas, you get some interesting research topics. So then what you do? So you improve it as a research question or the topic. Usually it happens. So then you you write something. So you present something, publish something. So some so that may be a kind of the primary source, like you come up with the original work. So so then when you identify the sources, so you need to be very careful about what type of source that you have used. Okay, there are many, because I'm not going to read everything because I will share the slides so you can read slide by slide and understand later. Yes, so when you find out the source, that is also like, like the way you are collecting data. So there are two main types: primary source and secondary source. So what are those primary source and the secondary source? So some people, they don't have idea about this. You should have this idea. Okay, so when we read something, you have to have capability to identify this idea has come from that original author, or this idea is, this idea is again describing by some other author, the second author. Okay, so the primary source is like the first-hand account of event or time period, and are considered to be authoritative, represent original thinking, reports, and discoveries or events, or they can share new information. So usually the primary sources are the new kind of information. Okay, so usually so for example, I have done kind of a piece of work. So it's my primary work. Okay, so I have published that in a referred journal articles, my work. So then it's primary work from the primary original author. So some person take my ideas and that person review and take, my ideas, and he support those ideas to, analyze his thing and all. So then he's a second author, he's a second resource. So sometimes you take from that, you take the original idea from this, something written by the second author. You have to be very careful in that sense. You have to find out the, especially what the original author has said. Sometimes, like if I read original author's work and then write something based on that original author, so my idea also can be a little bit different from that original author. So therefore, when you review literature, you need to find out who is the original author. That is the primary source. Okay, so secondary source is also important, because, so for example, so if I have done some work and several people given criticisms, commentary, sometimes synthesis, evaluation about my work, that is also important. So when you do that, you have to clearly identify whether you have taken that information from the original author or from the secondary source, from the secondary source. We have to have a clear idea about that. So that is why when we actually, when students come to IVAS, when we ask some questions, they don't have a proper idea about, oh my God. So they have sometimes, so my original work has, evaluated by some other person. So then you can't put that second person's name as the, he doesn't own that idea. So you can't cite that person's name. You have to cite the original author's name. So you can get only the criticism or, interpretation from that second author and put his name. So that is why most of the students, what they do is, they actually, they don't have a clear idea about it. Okay. So this is, I have given here a table to identify. So what are the primary sources and the secondary sources? Okay. So before you go to the sources, why should I evaluate my sources? Because usually what people do, they take, information from Wikipedia or some other person's thesis and they write the literature review. So those, literature are not reliable. As a researcher, you will navigate a vast amount of information from a variety of sources, including, but not limited to, a book, journals, and the internet. Not everything you find is appropriate to use in your research paper. You should aspire to become an expert on the topic of your choice as a researcher. So you need to consider whether the information you are finding is reliable, valid, authoritative, relevant, and current. Okay, so you have to have that knowledge also. So otherwise you can't actually go for search for sources. So without having a proper knowledge of that. And also these are the questions that you can ask from every source. Where does the information come from? Is the information supported by evidence? Can the information be verified somewhere else? Does the information seem to be free of bias and emotion? Are there obvious spelling, grammar, or presentation errors? So when you have to read and identify whether this is a reliable, source, reliable source or the reliable document. Usually when we go to the recommended sources, so you usually get, the very, rich articles. Especially I will show you. But so all the time, you have to remember all the time we can't go for the very rich, the rich articles. But anyway, so there are some other sources, informal sources also you can get some information. In that cases, you have to, think about certain things. Otherwise, you can't just like from what you see from your eyes should not be, correct forever. So you have to carefully look at that. Is the researcher's, duty. So everyone cannot be a researcher. So if I am a researcher, so I have to have that talent. If I am a lecturer, I have to have that talent. So otherwise I can't be. So there are chats. So okay, right. So you have to have that knowledge. So beginning your literature search, so you have to, as I mentioned, you have a research question, then you have to have a concept. So different concepts, you have to, I think you should know, you should know, like when you do how to write the literature review, how to, so in a literature review, so you have to have a different concepts. So in the main topic, you have a topic, then you have a problem statement, research questions, objectives. Based on that, you have concept. So you can search for concept. And also sometimes constructors, this is a search strategy. You can, you can actually combine 2-3 concepts and then search. So then if you don't get, sometimes suitable text for you, then what you have to do is then you again revise, again test, again revise, again test. So you have to have enough time for that. Okay. So, and also, so usually for my students, I'm teaching. So they have to do, week by week, they have to come up with some, the homework. So I give homework. So they have to do and come to me. So that is why gradually you will learn it. So from this is a 50-minute lecture, it's really difficult to tell you, but this is how you have to do. You have to have a different concepts, and also then after that you can have different themes also. So the concept defining is very important. So after that you can combine different concepts, and then you can see whether you get suitable articles for your study. And also it's really important to have a bibliography management. So use EndNote, Zotero, RefWork, Providence, others, so several things that you can use for the bibliography management. I think EndNote is expensive. I hope that some people can do it from Word documents. And the software, I think, free of charge, it's a, recommended thing. And import search findings to library. You have to maintain a library. So you can import search findings to library. And also you can remove duplicates. So when you take from different sources, you will have, number of books. So then you can have to remove that. And also you can use folders to categorize. So you have to have a way of categorizing. Okay. So maybe based on the themes, different themes, or sometimes, so you have to decide, okay, different concepts, different themes, you have to have different, folders. So you can put in a different folders. And also sometimes, so when you maintain a library, you can share it with your supervisor to see whether it's, in a good hand, or you are maintaining a good one, or any revision to be made and all, and also use for making citations. So then after that, you can use them for making citations. Mostly used sources for literature review, we have very limited time, peer-reviewed journal articles. So it's really important to know whether you are going for that each of them, one of each of them. Like, peer-reviewed journal articles is the recommended articles that you have to do, because you can't, don't waste your time for other things. At least you have to find out some numbers for very suitable literature. And edited academic books, there are edited books. Edited books. Sometimes some edited books, so they have not, different, like it's from peer-reviewed journal article, and statistical data from government website. So government website and the professional website, government website, for example, like in Sri Lanka, so Department of Census and Statistics. So there are websites from the, different government authorities, government departments and all, and also the professional association, UNFPA, UN, WHO, there are US bureaus, several professional associations. So they provide, the databases for us. So you should know about those things. So otherwise, you don't do a thorough literature review. So peer-reviewed journal articles, as I mentioned earlier, it's actually peer-reviewed journal article paper that has been submitted to, actually reviewed by, some blind. It's go for blind review process. We don't know who would be the, the reviewer. So therefore, the blind to reviews. So then it's like, so that is why we can recommend that peer-reviewed journal articles. Because peer-reviewed journal articles have gone through the rigorous review. They are considered to be the premier source for the research. It's a very, very important peer-reviewed journal. So when you go for, finding sources, you can just find out whether this is a peer-reviewed journal article. So then when you use the peer-reviewed journal articles, so peer-reviewed journal articles, you can't actually, if it is a journal, accepted only peer-reviewed articles, so then everyone cannot publish from that, journal. So therefore, there is a process. Very, very process takes long time, and so that is somewhat, that is most reliable. You can get a most reliable data information from that journal article. And also, if you are to start the literature review, peer-reviewed journal articles should serve as the foundation for your literature review. Okay, peer-reviewed journal articles. And also edited academic books, as I mentioned earlier. Some edited academic books are also good, but sometimes it doesn't go for the peer review purpose, because some academic books, like, sometimes we give, chapters or something, some articles for those books on invitation. In such cases, so that is also going through a very good editing process, but not like journal articles, not the peer review. So peer-reviewed is very important, but you can get information from those things also. But you should know the quality of those information. So when you read those things, you should know the quality. And also statistical brief about government websites. So as I mentioned, government website can be excellent sources for statistical data. Sometimes when you do the literature survey, sometimes you may need data to show some, issue or the problem or the something. And also sometimes you may need to, analyze some existing data. And also you can, get some information, some findings based on the data. So you have to get those things also. And also, please note that, so there are some other sources also. Some students have lots of issues. So whether we have to use it only from journal articles, only from textbooks, only from, only from databases, recommended databases. So then what happened to, some other informal, documents and all? Still, you can use those informal documents as well. But please remember, when you because there are some topics, research topics, they don't have much research work has been carried out previously, earlier. So in such cases, you may need to depend on some speeches, some letters, diaries, newspapers, autobiographies, interviews, official reports, court records. Sometimes some data or some information also could be a source for you. But what you have to do is you have to make the citations properly. And also, though there are several limitations of using those informal sources in your research work or in your dissertation or thesis, you have to clearly mention. So I have used kind of sources, but there may be some limitations on those sources. Okay, so you can't, and also you can't give some conclusion based on only from the informal information. So we use those kind of, so informal sources to support some, to support for your analysis, but only from this, you can't give a kind of the conclusion. And also how to evaluate the literature sources, you have to go to practice, currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, purpose. So usually the timelines of the information, so currency, so you have to take current information and the relevance, authority, accuracy. So you need to, when you search for the sources, you need to go for those, you have to keep in your mind those things. Otherwise, you don't have any foundation. Those things automatically should come from your mind. When you go and search for information, those basic ideas, basic things about the sources of literature review should come from your mind. So otherwise, that is why today what I want is to give you kind of that basic idea. So these are some elaboration. I don't have much time, so you can read it later. So I'm just skipping to the academic search engines. So Google Scholar. So I have mentioned earlier. So Google Scholar is a very important. It's very important, like to initially start your study. Google Scholar, I have given the website here. So you have to search. You have to find out several, related articles from the Google Scholar. Okay. And also there are, you can get very reliable things because most of the things are get the peer reviewed data, information, literature from the peer reviewed journal articles. Okay. So then Google Scholar, you have to go and so there are a process of searching from the Google Scholar also. That's why I mentioned to you earlier. So you have to have a separate, you have to especially mainly have the questions. So then you have to divide concepts separately. So then sometimes you can search for each concept or the combine different concept and search for the related article. So if you take the article from the Google Scholar, so then we know that is those literatures are more reliable. And then you can move to Scopus. So I have given here the website. This is also the well-reputed, way of, the taking, literature. It's the source of literature. So you can get several, information literature from this. So then you have to go for those, engines, searching engines. So you should know what are the, the reputed searching engines. So these are the reputed searching engines. If someone asks, where you have taken this, article. So I have taken this from Scopus. So I just search Google Scholar and I got those, articles from the Google Scholar. So then, so if you come to a Viva or your supervisor, you will know, oh my God, she knows about these things. So she has, just when you have a free time, go to Google Scholar, go to Scopus and see what is there, what is available, whether I can find suitable articles for my review. And there's Bielefeld academic search engine. So base search also very important. This is one of the world's most voluminous search engines, especially for academic web resources. So you should know there are several engines, searching engines for us. Why we have to take, kind of the Wikipedia? So we have to go for those things and search, check. And, you can access the full text of about 60% of the index document for free. It's an open access also. You should know that some people don't know. So how to access that? Sometimes it's very important, go to a library, and it's really important to get the instructions from the librarian or a library assistant. So they should know how to, go for those things. Like if you come to the library in the University of Colombo, so they are an assistant, then you can get help from them. So then how to do that? And also you can learn by yourself also. It's not very difficult. And another is a CORE. CORE is the world's largest aggregator of open access research papers from repositories and journals. So then if you want to go to get some, information in the past information, so this is a CORE is the very suitable method. And also Semantic Scholar also provide free AI-driven search and discovery tools and open sources for the global research community. So then like, when we go and search for things, you will learn. So what is the, existing, so available, interest about your question, any similarities, similar things is being doing by someone in, in different countries or somewhere. So you are very rich then. Science Direct is another one. It's a website which provides access to a large bibliographic database of scientific and medical publication of the Dutch publisher. So I need to, mention here clearly. So actually, I mentioned you. So based on your discipline, also you need to think about what kind of, source is very important for you. The Science Direct is usually go for, the disciplines of the science, medical science and all. And especially Google Scholar is very useful for anyone, especially for the social sciences as well. And also Gester is also very common one. It's a digital library of thousands of academic journals, books, and primary sources from a wide range of academic publishers and university presses. Okay, titles span across disciplines. So anyone, any discipline, you can find, literature for the students or the person from the researchers from any discipline. So these are also very important one. And also, actually, I want to mention these are the common, like, currently used searching engines. And also you should know about some, databases also. not only the journal articles, textbooks and all, but you have to go for some literature data also, especially if you doing something in Sri Lanka. Any country there is a census departments and statistics departments. You can get the related statistics data from those department from the particular country. Here in Sri Lanka, we have Department of Census and Statistics here. So how many information you can get it from that? Some people may know about it. You have to go search because most of the information are available on the website. So then you can actually, search for those information, and you can see whether anything important for your studies. And also Registrar General Department, because especially if you are doing something related to population or something, you can't just forget the Registrar General Department and US Census Bureau. It's lots of world data available here. So the topics ranging from several topics are available here, and also the UN data also covers several topics. So you can go and search for UN data, and so I have given the website here. So several information you can get, and also even data and some description. So those are not kind of well research studies. Those are data, and also they have given kind of find it based on data. And World Health Organization. So there is a very good database if you are doing something related to health or something. So those are the searching engines, I think, because so I had a very limited time. Otherwise, actually, I would be able to so some practical session for you all to do, how to find sources and all. But I tried my best to finish within the time given. And also, I hope that you got something from me. But please remember, writing a literature review, identifying sources for literature review, not very easy. But anyway, if you know the reliable sources, you can then try and find out suitable articles for you. So I hope then you can use this knowledge to enhance your research in future. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask. I think now almost 11. I'm sorry because I got few minutes from you all. Okay.
Thank you, madam. I have a question. Most of the search engines are not allowed to get articles. What we can do for that?
Udita?
Can you ask it again?
I don't know whether someone is talking. I can't hear you. So if you cannot talk, you can just put
Asking you one question. I think allow.
Someone is talking. I can't hear you.
Miss Vassala, can you repeat it again?
So if you cannot talk, you can just put
Asking you one question. Allow.
the Yeah. So the common question coming from me is like, I can't hear you properly. It's like so there are no access for some searching engines. So in such cases, like I think sometimes like some libraries, they have been given the support for that. Usually, you have to registered with well-reputed library. Usually, if you are a member of the library of University of Colombo, so you have access for all these things. Actually, for you all, there are few things like you cannot sometimes cannot get access, but most of things actually you can get access for to get sources of information. But some other things sometimes you have to get the support from libraries. Thank you very much, then. Dr. Moses, who is from Sri Lanka or somewhere else. Dr. Moses. Thank you, Dita. Yeah, if you can put into the chat box, it's easy for me to see. So I can't hear you all. I don't know what's the reason. Udita, can you hear me?
We can hear you properly.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you properly, madam.
Yeah, because I feel that someone is trying to ask a question, but the question is not clear. So if so, we have to stop now. The almost 11. Udita. Hello, I think I am properly pronounce your name. Is it Kamga?